everybody, hope you're all very well and welcome to this Here to Help video on integers. So what is an integer? An integer is a number which is positive or negative and it must be a whole number. So an integer is a whole number which is either positive or negative. So how do we know if a number is positive or negative? Well, there are three ways we can figure that out and I will tell you two of them. If this symbol is directly before a number, which means the number or term is positive. If this symbol is before a number, which means that term or number is positive or is negative, sorry. So, for example, we have this 4 here and we have a plus sign directly before it. So what that tells us is that 4 is positive. The reason for that is because that 4 comes directly after that positive sign, meaning that 4 is positive. In this here we have our negative 7. How do I know that is negative? Well, that is negative because it's a negative symbol directly before it. So that 7 comes directly after that negative symbol, meaning that 7 is negative. Let's look at question 4. This 7 here. Do we see how there is no symbol before it? How do we figure that out? Do we do an equation or do we just guess? None of them. If there is not a symbol before a number or term, it means that term is positive. So, how do we know if a number is positive or negative? If it comes directly after a positive symbol, it's positive. If it comes directly after a negative symbol, it's negative. If there's no symbol before it, could be anywhere in the equation. If there's no symbol before it, that means it is positive. So, I'm going to be using red and green today to represent positive and negatives because that is a common colour used, and that is often a colour that will be used in the classroom to teach that to children. So, integers. Let's have a look at this first question here, number 1. What I know I have positive 7 because there's not a symbol before it, so I know that is positive. And I also have 4, positive 4. So that means I have positive 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I have positive 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there is no negatives that need to be cancelled out because they're all positive, so I literally just have to count all those positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 positive, so I know my answer is positive 11. Now, unless you put a negative symbol before that, people will know that is a positive number, so you won't need to put plus 11, it's just 11. That is the same way you could just be going 8, 9, 10, 11. That's just showing you the integer logic behind it. So this time we have negative 7 plus 4 in question number 2 here. So let's have a look at this. So we're going to have 7 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, draw them a bit clearer. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 negatives. And we have 4 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, I know that a positive and a negative cancel each other out. What is an example of this? 1 minus 1. That 1 has no symbol before it, meaning it's positive 1. And that 1 has a negative symbol directly before it, meaning it is a negative 1. So 1 positive and 1 negative. Now, they cancel each other out because I know that the answer to 1 subtract 1 is 0. So because I know that positive and negatives cancel each other out because otherwise my answer wouldn't be 0. So that positive and that negative cancel each other out, meaning in every case 1 positive cancels out 1 negative. So I have 4 positives and question number 2 and 7 negatives. Well, for every positive I can cancel out a negative, for every negative I can cancel out a positive, depending on how many you have. So for example here I have a negative and a positive, a negative and a positive, same here and same here. However, I have 3 negatives left and I can't cancel them out because I have no other positives from that positive 4 to cancel them out. So my answer is simply going to be negative 3. Now people won't know that's a negative unless you write negative 3, put that minus symbol before that negative symbol, giving you negative 3. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the camera down a wee bit so you can see the questions a bit better. Right, question 3. I have negative 7 minus negative 4. So I know I have negative 7, so that means we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So similar to the positives, at this time we've got all negatives. So I'm just going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They're all negative, so that means my answer will be negative 11. Negative 11. However, because I know it's negative 7 minus 4, I would have just done, if I weren't looking at the integer logic behind it, I would have just done 7 plus 4 is 11, and I know that both negatives were subtracting negative from a negative, so we're going to end up with a negative answer. Okay, let's move on to look at 4. 7 minus minus 4. Why is that minus 4 in brackets? Well, that minus 4 is in brackets to show you that it's not just a mistake. I've accidentally put 2 negatives in. It's showing me that this is minus 4, because that negative symbol comes directly after, that 4, and this shows you, what does this show? Does that show that negative is negative? No, this simply shows you that that is going to be subtracting. So if you have 2 negatives next to each other, that kind of shows you that you're going to have a term here, and that this is going to be your action, your subtraction action. So, what if 2 negatives next to each other? That doesn't really please maths. They want to go, no, that's going to be a positive. So let's just think about this first. I have 7 minus minus 4. So I don't know what to do with that minus. Do I make this 7 minus or make this 4 minus? No, you change the equation. So rather than having 7 minus minus 4, you end up with 7 plus 4. Why is this? Because in order to get rid of those brackets, we're going to need to essentially multiply. But essentially what we're doing is we're doing a negative and a negative, giving you a positive. Okay, so it's going to give you 7 plus 4. And that is exactly the same as we did up in question 1. When we had 7 plus 4, all positive. It's just going to give you positive 11, the same as what we have here. Next we have 7 minus 4. So I have positive 7, which is going to look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Minus 4, so negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Positives and negatives cancel each other out, so that's going to give me this positive and this negative is going, this positive and this negative is going, this positive and this negative is going, and this positive and this negative is going. Meaning I'm left with positive 3. So it's equal to positive 3. And finally, we have negative 7 minus negative 4. We have 3 lots of negatives in there. So how am I going to deal with that? Well, I know I have negative 7. So I'm just going to deal with that first. But, wait a second. I have a negative and a negative. That's going to make a positive. So I'm just going to completely change that to make it correct and to put in that symbol that really should be there. That we're going to have to change it to. But often you will get questioned in math like this when you have a negative and a negative next to each other. And I would just first of all always change that to positive. You have negative and negative like this next to each other. And then go in and put in your negatives and positives and draw them out. Because this way your equation is going to be correct. Because you didn't know what to do that minus. We do negative 7 minus negative 4. Well, that's going to give us negative 11. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that means that's telling me that my answer is going to be negative 11. But if I reword that equation, give me negative 7 plus 4, that negative and negative goes, give me plus 4, I've got 7 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, sorry. And then I have 4 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the positive and negatives cancel each other out, giving us douche, 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 leaving me with negative 3. So that means my answer is going to be negative 3. So you see, if we just subtracted negative 7 from negative 4, that wouldn't have worked. It works up here in question 3. Because we don't have essentially a negative next to a negative, there's no negatives next to each other. Because this negative here, this 4 isn't negative, this is telling us this 4 is negative and also telling us that we subtract essentially. So, because there wasn't 2 negatives next to each other, that's why that worked. But because there are 2 negatives next to each other here, that's why we end up with negative 3. So I hope you found this video useful, thank you very much for watching. And just remember that positives and negatives cancel each other out. Thank you, see you next time, I'm here to help. Bye for now.